Firstly, can I say thank you to CLA for the privilege to speak here today. It's a bit like watching a television program late at night where it warns you not to do this at home. And so I often say, boy, New Zealand's not an example that you should necessarily follow. I mean, you're right, brutal in the sense that the subsidies, more evolutionary in terms of the reforms that followed. And so on that basis, I think the UK has a longer period of time to adjust. I'm a believer that there are always going to be a requirement in the UK-European market around some form of payment to farmers in order to keep viability within the community. But the capacity, the UK is a temperate climate, just like New Zealand. It produces a really good products, has the capacity, in my view, to export quite substantially in terms of those. One of the debates will be about how do you deal with the production cost, and that, in my view, is a responsibility of the government if it is saying that this is what the community wants in terms of particular requirements. So I think there's a chance. If you look at the history of the consumer over the last 50 years, the choice and options available now are substantially greater than they ever were. So the ability to choose an avocado versus fish versus red meat now is substantially greater than it used to be. This is a mature market, and so the risk is always that there will be a marginal decline in consumption for a whole range of reasons. Interestingly, we see opportunity in this market, and that is in the takeout food service catering industry. If you look at the total consumption of food in this country now, 38% of it never goes through a home kitchen, and that's growing. In the US, 55% of all food consumed never goes through the family home. And so on the basis of that, there are some new opportunities. But North Asia is the story that will continue for some time to come. The level of consumption of red protein will continue to increase quite substantially. So we're talking Korea, Taiwan, and then into China, obviously. And with the African swine fever, is just a bit of an issue that will bubble on the top. It has a dramatic impact. If you thought Brexit was an issue for the last 3 years, the shortage of red protein and white protein going into the next 5 years is going to be significant. As always, there's a variety of mechanisms that took place. So first, as I explained today, the increase in production. So if you look at, if we take the sheep industry as an example, if you look at the combine of increasing the lambing percentage, increasing the dead weight of the animal, increasing the growth rates of the animal, and the inclusion of hoggets or yearlings as part of your lambing percentage, we've gone from just under 10 kilos per producing ewe on a property to just over 18 kilograms. So that is a 100% increase in production over a period of 20 years. And then the other side's cost. And so the efficiencies that have come through agri-technology, but more importantly by farmers really starting to understand and benchmark their businesses, they start to drive some of the costs out of their industry, and that has been captured. So 70% is in around innovation and production, and about 30% in reduction of cost on your business. We see the ability for the UK, so let's use the lamb market as an example. We think there is a complementary aspect for the UK lamb production. Into North America, both Australia and New Zealand can't supply particular cuts. And I think that the difficulty the industries are domestically trying to understand here is that you shouldn't think of the carcass, you should think of the products that you can produce from that carcass and what each market wants. 65% of the chicken produced in this country is exported because the consumer has a preference for the other 35%. So for the British lamb, there's real opportunity in the North American market, huge opportunity in the North Asia, not just in China, but in the other three. And then we're just now starting to explore markets such as India, the Philippines, and Indonesia, who have both population, but more importantly, economic growth that is opening up new markets in terms of red protein.